What up, it's your boy Geronimo, and we're back again with yet another video. So today with this video, I want to kind of talk about the upcoming Sonic racing game, Sonic Racing CrossWorlds. This is the one that was revealed in last year's 2024 The Game Awards, and in the latest state of play we got the full reveal, which looked really awesome. And after that, Sega was kind enough to announce a network test. It was a closed network test, and it was PlayStation 5 only, unfortunately. But if you tried applying for it and you got a rejection email, they did mention that there should be a follow-up. So we should get another opportunity to play this again. But as a longtime fan of the Sonic racing games, the first three by Sumo Digital, I just want to hop on here and give my impressions on what I played, you know, the new things that are here, and you know how I think we should go going forward. So to start out, the network test consisted of 6 tracks and 5 crossworlds, and these crossworlds are essentially like, they're also their own tracks, but they're kind of based on either from previous Sonic racing games or maybe from other Sonic related levels, or kind of reminiscent of them. But yeah, the 6 regular tracks, we had East Stadium, Rainbow Garden, Water Palace, Wonder Museum, Metal Harbor from Sonic Adventure 2 fame, and Ocean View, which is inspired, not designed, but inspired like the track from Sonic All-Stars Racing Transformed. In the 5 crossworlds we had Sky Road, which is inspired by the latest Sonic racing game, Team Sonic Racing. I think it came out in 2019. And Roulette Road, which is themed after Bingo Highway of Sonic Heroes, but this particular track naming and influence is inspired by the very first Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing. And then we also had Kraken Bay, which kind of looks like Pirate Storm from Sonic and the Secret Rings, but it is not that. It seems to be its original track. Lava Cave, which is more so you flying around through like lava areas, and you know, kind of avoiding like these fiery dragons that burst out. And Dinosaur Jungle, which seems influenced by Sonic and the Secret Rings as well, but they don't want to say that, which is interesting. Maybe they'll save that for later. But also we had 9 playable characters. Again, this is an all Sonic cast, with potential Sega characters coming in later. But we got to play as Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Amy, Shadow, Cream returning. Well, actually, I think this might be our first time being playable, period, in these games. Omega, Eggman, and Zaz from Sonic Lost World for some reason. We did see some other characters revealed for the main games, including characters from Sonic Riders, like Jet the Hawk. We should be getting the rest of the Team Chaotix crew. We're going to be getting Sage from Sonic Frontiers, you know, the little digital girl that Eggman created, which is actually pretty dope. I'm glad that she's popping up in new things already. And also we got to play with 16 vehicles with 4 different types. We have speed types, acceleration type, handling type, and power type. So if you play Team Sonic Racing, these type of play styles or stat distributions for vehicles should be familiar. So that's pretty much it for the demo, and it was all online. I believe it's 12 racers per race, and it's 3 laps, of course. And we also got the ability to customize our cart, so we'll get to that in just a moment. So the good things I really liked about this network test overall is the visual presentation. Now, to start off, the thing that surprised me the most about this game is that it's not made by Sumo Digital. It's actually made by Sonic Team. And we saw this because that's what's shown on the Steam page, which is pretty cool. And not only is it done by them, it's not being made in the Hedgehog engine too, which is, you know, that's what Sonic Forces is made in, Sonic Frontiers, just notably. But it's made in Unreal Engine. I don't know if it's Unreal Engine 4 or 5. It might be 5, but don't quote me on that. Otherwise, the game does look really nice visually. It's a very visually appealing game. Team Sonic Racing was already a really nice looking game, but this one, it just seems like it's got a little extra budget put in. The character models looking really clean and crisp. They animate well. It's overall a really great presentation. I'm glad to see that these Sonic racing games seem to kind of improve presentation-wise overall. Other things I liked about this demo, or at least the game based off the demo, we have a wide variety of items. So there's a lot of items in this game. Like, there's a good number of them. I have to go through like a list to remember them all. But basically, we have like the green punching gloves from the first Sonic All-Star Racing game. We have like homing. I think it's like a homing glove. They had something like that in the previous games too, but it's supposed to reminisce like the shells in Mario Kart, of course. You have like a cyclone thing. You can circle around your character, so you can kind of just, anytime you drive by people, you can knock them over. And then some of the newer items is like a bomb, like a straight up bomb, and you can hold on to it. It has two charging levels, and after each charging level, it'll grow in size, and you can throw it in front of you or behind you. And then we also see some wisps from Sonic Colors come back as well. We have the Drill Wisp, which acts like the Bullet Bill in the Mario Kart 8. We have the Laser, which is kind of like that cyan colored one. Basically, if there's more racers ahead of you, you'll bounce off of them, like how you do in the actual games, where you have to angle yourself, and you'll bounce in front of them and get to the front of the pack. And you also have the Void Wisp. I think that's like the violet purplish color one, and it makes you kind of like a driving black void, which is pretty cool. You can use that to absorb rings around you, item boxes, and I think you can protect yourself from some attacks as well. And probably one of the more standout new items they brought back the ghost from Sonic Adventure 2 named King Boom Boo. He was that big ghost that Knuckles had to fight, right? You had to run around in a circle and avoid him. He basically is a blue shell item. He'll go all the way to the front, and he will attack the first person who's in first place. And not only that, he'll leave like a trail of like blue tornadoes behind him. Like, I think it's like 3 or 4 tornadoes. So as long as you kind of see ahead of time, you can avoid it. But that's pretty cool that they thought of a different way to do the blue shell mechanic. I think in previous Sonic racing games, it was either not really that menacing, or I don't know, just it really wasn't anything to write home about. Like, if you were real far ahead in the pack, you weren't really going to get stopped by that item. But yeah, so other things I did like about this that's new, or should I say kind of adds on to previous entries, we can customize our vehicle once again. We have basically each character you choose, they have like base stats that they add to the vehicles. The vehicles, you can customize the front, the back end, the wheels. You can add different decals. I believe the different car parts, you can mix them and match them this time, which is pretty neat. So you can have like the first boss cart that Dr. Robotnik used in Sonic 2 on the Sega Genesis, the drill. You can actually make a car like that in the game, and then on the back you can have like a big old like NASCAR spoiler on it, so you can kind of go all out and do whatever you please. And then of course, as you know, we've seen the trailers, return of transforming vehicles. So it's pretty cool. Not only can you drive in a car on the ground like usual, you can also go through these rings throughout the track, and you can transform your vehicle into a boat. And you'll also have ways to transform into the plane. Now, there is another vehicle we can get in the game, and it's from the original trailers and promo. Since they brought in the Sonic Riders characters, we can actually use the Extreme Gear, which is those boards that you use in those games. And I did hear that they have some unique mechanics to them. We didn't have access to them in this network test for the demo, but hopefully the next one we'll get access to them. But I'm really excited to see that. Sonic Riders is underrated. But yeah, the transforming vehicles are back. But yeah, that's pretty much most of the main good things I liked about the game. So I want to talk about things that I would say are, I guess, more on the negative side, or things that they can improve on. So since they did add a bunch of new items or returning items, it seems that you get them really, really often in this game. Like, I feel like even if someone in front of you grabs the item box, it comes back in less than a second. Like, it's almost instant. Like maybe half a second. That's how fast it comes back. So I feel like I feel like Sega needs to, or Sonic Team, I think they need to tone that down a bit, or at least increase the time it takes for them to pop up, because the way these races go, is really fast paced and really arcadey. And you can get bumped against all your opponents and lose rings and whatnot, which is pretty wild. But for anyone that's just picking it up for the first time, it will seem very chaotic and out of control. I will be honest. It took me like, I want to say 4 or 5 races to get used to the items, not understand how each one worked and, become an expert, but kind of understand the flow of the races. And, as you go from your regular track to your CrossWorlds as your lap 2, and then back to your the final lap of the main tracks itself. And that's how the flow goes. The tracks don't necessarily physically change or get destroyed like in Sonic All-Stars Racing Transformed, but when you're driving, you do have a way of, like, you see like 2 rings that pop in the distance, and whoever's in first place, basically they have to drive on the left or right side to kind of choose which that CrossWorld will be, which is usually like, one, you get a preview image, like, okay, that one's gonna be Sky Road from Team Sonic Racing, or it'll be a random one. And in the full game, there's gonna be way more than the 5 CrossWorlds that we got in this network test demo. So fortunately, we'll have a way more variety when the full game is out. But yeah, the item stuff is very chaotic, y'all. Like, only thing I can really suggest is to just keep tabs on which items you do have. They kind of ripped off Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, not the original Wii U one, but Deluxe, where you can have 2 items. Now, by default, you can't cycle through them, but you do have an option to utilize the gear system. I'm sorry, the gadget system, and I'll talk about that more in a bit. But the gadget system is a way to kind of like add little mods to your carts. You can add up to 6 slots, but some of the mods take 1 slot, and some take 2, and some take 3, and that's usually weighed on how drastic of a change it'll add to your car. But yeah, the other thing that kind of threw me off in this network test demo, the music direction. So we don't really know who's doing the music in this game, or at least as far as I know. If you have heard or read anything as this video, please let me know in the comments below. I would love to know. But Team Sonic Racing, the previous one by Sumo Digital with the team mechanic, that one was pretty much heralded by Crush 40 for the most part. So we got a lot of like that type of a rock music with remixes. And then Sonic All-Stars Racing Transformed was all done by Richard Jakes, who's pretty much a Sega veteran at this point, and he did a lot of the Sonic R soundtrack as well back in the day. But yeah, this music, some of it's a mixed bag. Like, some songs I do like, some songs feel like either they're a missed opportunity, like the Water Palace track, which is in the game. That's strictly named after the Sonic Rush level, the DS game, but it doesn't have any of the Hideki Naganuma sounding music, anything like that. It shouldn't be like a challenge too, because at one point he was working for Sega. I think he's working with them again for just the new Jet Set Radio, but that's a bit off topic. But I say that to say, some songs I feel like are missed opportunities. Where like Metal Harbor does have a remix of the theme, and that second theme when you ride the rocket all the way to the top and you like to skateboard to the bottom. It's a bit of a mixed bag. It's not the fact that it doesn't sound cohesive. It's just some don't really stand out to me, and some are actually pretty good, and I will listen to them outside the game. And one thing I gotta criticize, and I don't know if it's just me, but for these final laps, what they do is they'll do like this chorus, like rendition of the theme in the beginning, and it doesn't sound good to me. I'm gonna keep it a buck with you all. It doesn't sound good. I think it might be due to like audio mixing. They might have to kind of tone that down a bit. But yeah, that's kind of how I feel about the music so far, what was in the demo. Yeah. So that's pretty much how I'm feeling about the kind of negatives so far of the game. And I mean, they can kind of improve some of them. Another thing that I think they need to tone down as well is when you do your aerial tricks, which is you can not only do your tricks with the right stick, like in the previous 3 Sonic Racing games, but you can also use the left stick, so, you know, what you steer the car with. I kind of think they need to, either remove the left stick as an option to do tricks, because I think it's a little jarring, because I use that to actually drive my vehicle. It's use it to drive the vehicle. And also when you do those tricks, your character will say like little banter things. That's cool the first time, but it gets very repetitive really fast. So maybe reduce the frequency of them saying those things as they do the tricks. I think that'll go a long way, especially, you know, how fast-paced these races can be. You can get in and out of them within like 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes tops. So hopefully Sonic Team will take that feedback once we get the opportunity to give them feedback, and they can kind of make adjustments where we see fit. And so other things I want to mention, I call this like the neutral. Mainly how things may not be positive or negative, but it just is, and you have to like kind of learn to appreciate them, or you know, the new mechanics. So since this is a Sonic Team made racing game, and not Sumo Digital, they've had a good pedigree of like doing a lot of arcadey type of racers, or any type of game with a racing mechanic. The handling does feel noticeably different. So the racing, no matter the vehicle, car, boat, or plane, it's still like, I think in the default when you play the game, they have you with similar like Mario Kart controls where like you hold a face button. So in this case on PS5 was the X button. But I'm sure if you play on like Xbox, it would be A button, or if you're on Nintendo Switch, because it is coming to Nintendo Switch, and probably Switch 2, but that's not confirmed yet. That'll probably be B on the bottom. And then you have to use, I think L, the left trigger to do items. Now there is an option to toggle it to, as they call it, Team Sonic Racing controls, which makes it to where the right trigger is the accelerate, your B, your circle, or on Nintendo console, the A button. That will be how you would brake. And then you can use A to throw items, A, X, or B on Nintendo consoles, and then you would use left trigger to kind of drift again. So once I found that made adjusting to it much better. Another thing I would say too is the cars themselves, well, specifically the cars, they do feel a bit heavier, even for like some of the other classes, like the acceleration type or handling type. Now, I'm not saying you can't adjust to them. It's just if you finish playing like Sonic Transform or even Team Sonic Racing and you switch to this, you're gonna notice the game feels a bit different. You can still do your 3 drift boosts. They get charges up. You see a meter on the side of your character, kind of like Crash Team Racing. You see like a meter pop up, and that's mostly fine. There are some mods you can add where you can have it to where your level 1 charge for drifting is really quick. You can have it to where when you drift in one direction, and in typical Sonic Racing fashion, you can kind of like switch the angle you're drifting and not take your button off the accelerator. You can get like a quick charge that way, and there's also an option to have an additional 4th charge, so you get an even stronger boost. But those are again with the gear additions with the game. The gadgets. I'm sorry, the gadgets. But yeah, and the other thing I'd want to say, actually, I would say real quick for the controls, because the controls are different. You may think, oh, this is terrible. I wouldn't say it's terrible. It's just different, and I think that's fine. We just have to understand this is not Sumo Digital making it. This is Sonic Team. And they have, their in-house developers working on it. So it's going to have a different feel. But once you get back in the swing of things, you're going to be drifting and hitting those boosts and doing tricks like any of the other games. So that's nothing to really worry about. But something to keep in mind for sure. And the last thing for kind of like my neutral section is understanding that these tracks with the CrossWorlds Lap 2s intertwined in the races is not exactly the same as Transform tracks. Like, we do have some tracks where, like let's say Ocean View or Seaside Hill, basically, for like Sonic Heroes. And anyone that plays Sonic Transform, the first two laps you're gonna be going through driving as normal. But as soon as you get to that 3rd lap, you'll notice that the starting line kind of collapses and lowers, and you have to immediately go in the water. You don't really have natural progressions like that per track, and and since those in Transformed were kind of like, once you got through them the first time, they would be the same type of dynamic change every time you race on them. Like, it wouldn't be anything vastly different. So that's one thing I would say. Transforming tracks versus CrossWorlds tracks. The thing that the CrossWorld tracks can have over the transformed ones is that, since you have the option of, whoever's in first, anyone that's trailing behind, you can passively vote on which one to choose from. In the network test, I noticed when I was playing on the last day, Sunday, more people are hitting the random one just to get whatever else and make it truly exciting. So that is pretty cool, because sometimes when you do go into the CrossWorld, when you go into the dinosaur jungle, you're suddenly going down a river and you're racing down it and you hit the bottom and then you go back into drive again. So and then some, like Sky Road, you go from racing on the car and you go immediately to playing, and that's pretty cool. So I think it's best to understand that while they definitely acknowledge the fact that Sonic Transformed was kind of like the peak of the Sonic racing games over the past decade and a half or so, CrossWorlds are going for a slightly different vibe, slightly different kind of mechanic, and I do like it. I think it's really cool, especially as an option. I think it's a smart way of being able to add in more track themes and designs without having to make one fully for like a full 3-track race. But it does make me wonder if there will be some options to kind of just play the original track in 3 normal laps or not. I think you can, because it's not like there's a specific place where it just doesn't flow well. It's really just like a portal that pops up for the CrossWorld. So if you just take the portals away, that'll make that little straightaway, much better. So, and it's not always a straightaway that leads to them. Sometimes you'll get on a curve or some sort of a hairpin turn, and then you'll see the track kind of part, and you'll have options to choose one or the other. So it's definitely cool that they're kind of not just wholesale copying the transform mechanic, which, I love it. I still love it to this day. I think that Skies of Arcadia track and transform is one of the coolest things, where you start from just racing on these sky islands to the last lap flying in between these big battleships, just duking it out, firing missiles at each other, and other islands exploding. It's crazy, but I do like that the potential here for the CrossWorlds can be pretty sweet, especially if they choose to add more of them via DLC. This game is pretty much made to have a bunch of DLC if they really want to. I think it's tailor-made for that, and I really hope Sonic Team and Sega lean into it, as long as the game does well when it does come out fully. But yeah, and one last thing I would like to say, and I actually want to add on to the how the game feels for the driving. So when you're in the boat, the drifting is a bit different. Well, it's not so much different, but when you hold down the drift button, you'll notice your meter will charge up. But what you'll do when you let go of the meter is your boat will kind of hop up on some Mario Kart fashion. It's not like a true bunny hop, but it can go kind of high. And then from there, you can just do at least one trick and get a little boost. So if you have good if you kind of get the timing down and with the rhythm, you can kind of do 3-4 back-to-back quick boosts while you're just driving on the boat. And in the plane, drifting in the air is different. Now this is one thing I do kind of miss from Transformed, I will say. So in Transform, you can kind of use the right stick to kind of flip back and forth, do back flips, front flips, barrel rolls to dodge stuff and get risk boosts. That's all gone. What they have is you just fly normal, but you can do a aerial drifting. It's a little weird. It's not like your plane just goes sideways on a huge bend and you have to discharge it that way. It's kind of like your plane will realign itself in the air and you drive it like that. So it's different. There's a learning curve to it. I think I'll need a bit more time to really get good at it. So, but yeah, it is definitely interesting how that is in play. And of course, when you're going through the tracks, you do have options to either stay on your original vehicle, or you can go through the ring and take a flying route. So I did see a couple of those, in Metal Harbor and whatnot. So all in all, though, a lot of new things here. A lot of new things with this Sonic Racing CrossWorlds. Some things that are a bit jarring that I think they can improve on, and they said as much. They did say that there would be a future network test demo to play in, and hopefully they have the crossplay enabled, which is great. That's one of the things I'm super excited for. Crossplay in a Sonic Racing game, fantastic. I'm glad they're investing in it. Team Sonic Racing Online, at least on the PC side, pretty much died after like one day because it was kind of broken. And I think if we at least had crossplay with at least PlayStation 4 at the time, would have had an actual player base. But now it's pretty anemic. So in Team Sonic Racing. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to the crossplay implementation. I really hope the next beta does have that, and they also include improvements from our feedback of this one. But yeah, all in all, I enjoyed what I played. Had definitely a bit of a learning curve of a number of mechanics and features. But I think it's promising. I think they got some good here. Definitely keep up with it. It's coming to all platforms, everything under the sun. And I would not be surprised if it is Steam Deck verified as well for my Steam Deck people and other hybrid portable PC players. But yeah, that's pretty much it here. If you have any other questions, feel free to drop it in the comments below. Follow me on my socials. That's Blue Sky and Threads at Geronimo. Of course, you can find me there. Make sure you like the video, subscribe if you want to see more content. I can talk about, gaming discussions, some gameplay clips here and there. Every now and then I do discussion videos with some, friends I have as well. So yeah, thank you all for watching. Again, like, comment, subscribe, and peace out. Bring back Sega characters though, like for real. Bring them back, please, please.